Champion Kansas City Chiefs aim for an unprecedented third straight Super Bowl, but the Texans are ready to end the dynasty. Then the Commanders, fresh off their first playoff win since 2006, take on the high-powered offense of the Detroit Lions. Start your game day with pro football today at 10 a.m. for pregame betting. Then stay in the action with in-game live game day. Only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Talk about it failing and always putting the square peg into the round hole. We're going to run it. We're going to try and play these lower scoring games. They didn't score over 17 points in the 5 straight losses.
There's a chance for the Ravens to exercise every single demon on their way to a Super Bowl. But it also means the path is very difficult and things are only getting started.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Good morning. Welcome to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. It is Friday. It is maybe the biggest football Friday of the season. The divisional games are this weekend, coming up tomorrow and Sunday. The College Football National Championship is Monday on the same day of the Martin Luther King holiday. I'm going to guess a lot of people Sunday night are going to be tuned into potentially the game of the year between the Bills and Ravens. So we're going to talk a lot about that, of course, on the show today. So thanks for being part of it. Also, Adam Kaufman will be on the program. We'll review some of the things going on this weekend in the NFL, look at some player props as well. In addition, we'll also check in with Sam McQuillan from Legal Sports Report and a whole lot more here on the show as we go through the NBA and college basketball as well. So stick with us throughout the show. And of course, don't forget, we got fantasy sports tomorrow, Saturday morning, Sunday morning, and a very special Super Bowl edition, by the way, of the show coming up later in February as well. So without further ado, let's get to the news. We'll get to some football. Let's start with some other big news, and we'll start with the University of Florida Gators basketball program, which indeed is in some hot water yet again. Right now, there's an assistant coach that's accused of sexual assault and former player for the Gators, too. Torian Green is basically under fire right now. There's a woman who's asked to remain anonymous based on the fear of retaliation, reporting to the school's Title IX office that in March of last year, Green arranged a meeting with her in the athletic facilities where he allegedly kissed her and tried to put his hand down, her hand down his pants. Yeah, I think that's the way to say it. According to the copy of the complaint reviewed by ESPN, she pulled his hand away and said no, and then he tried again. Again, these are allegations. Want to be clear on that. But the university is also investigating another incident back in September that included their head coach as well. So here is the statement from the University of Florida. The law prohibits us from commenting on the existence of status of investigations. University of Florida taking these matters seriously and conducting a thorough and deliberate process. Also ensures due process for everyone. Again, allegations don't mean anyone is guilty. These are just something that obviously is very disturbing in the world of sports and college basketball as well. Speaking of Title IX, on the flip side, here is some good news. More money being paid out, name, image, and likeness in the form of $20.5 million coming in direct payments to athletes as one part of a pending antitrust settlement. Many schools from those conferences are trying to get that money to athletes because they generate the most revenue football and men's basketball part of that. In some cases, the directors have shared they want to give 75% of that money to their football players. So we'll see how this money is divvied up. But this antitrust lawsuit continues, and Title IX getting involved as well. No surprise there. Could LeBron James continue to play basketball, but just not in the NBA? Really fascinating story coming out here. His agent, Maverick Carter, his business manager, Rich Paul's his agent, his business manager, Maverick Carter, has been enlisted as an advisor with a group of investors that are seeking to raise approximately $5 billion to form a new basketball league. It would be an international basketball league that serves to rival the NBA. It has private equity funds, of course, so we don't know exactly what those are going to include. Very similar to how we saw the separate golf tournament, the LIV golf tournament. Could this be something similar? We will see. But no question, if Maverick Carter's involved, you would have to think LeBron James could potentially be involved, still playing basketball, but maybe not in the NBA. Could that ever happen? We will see. All right, the Dolphins are hosting the first ever game in Madrid. That is right. We went from Brazil to Germany, and now we're going to Madrid. That's where the Dolphins are going to play next season. No word on who they'll play. They'll announce that coming up in a couple of months. Tom Brady is going to continue his role with Fox and the Raiders. It was announced yesterday. There was thought to be some potential conflict with him owning a small part of the Raiders, but I guess there is not. Texans Joe Mixon missed practice. He's questionable to play against the Chiefs. I think most insiders in the NFL are pointing toward him playing tomorrow. And also, bad news for Zay Flowers. He missed practice again ahead of the Bills on Sunday, listed as questionable, but it doesn't look like he's going to play on Sunday night. All right, the National Basketball Association, it was the game, at least of the month of January, as Oklahoma City took on Cleveland. Not really much of a contest. SGA had 40 points. They win the game against the Cavs. Final 131 to 114. They closed the first quarter on a 22-2 run. They took a 32-14 lead and never looked back. Mark Daigneault, Kenny Atkinson, those are the head coaches. Daigneault, of course, the head coach of Oklahoma City. Atkinson of Cleveland. Daigneault said he knew what the stakes were going into the game, but didn't prepare any differently.
Yeah, I mean, really good job. I thought it was nothing new for us in terms of the way we attacked and stuff like that. We played small before, so we just had to double down on that package. And then I thought the carryover from Cleveland, we played them on short turnaround, and we carried over some really good things in the game plan where we really executed, especially early. And then they zoned us quite a bit down the stretch of the game last time, and I thought they went to that in the first half, and our attacks were really sharp against it. So I thought there was improvement there over the last 10 days as well, which was encouraging.
They really put the stamp on with what they do, and they so it was that end, and then and then when they just started getting layups in transition, that got them going, and obviously they're started out 9 for 15 from three, so it was just an avalanche, and we really never responded, just a total domination.
Back to the NBA we go. DeMar DeRozan, huge game last night for the Sacramento Kings. 132 to 127 the final. Really close game considering the number was 4. Kings now 21-20 as they defeat the Rockets. Ime Udoka obviously not happy with this outcome.
I don't know about frustrating. We weren't playing well enough. We're pretty sloppy offensively, just some unforced turnovers, and then defensively too many mistakes. So to be back in the game and give ourselves a chance at the end is a good thing to me with how poorly we played overall. So look at that as a positive. We kept fighting, got back in the game, and just too many mistakes when we had chances. I don't know if we deserved to win this game, but the sloppy turnovers, mistakes, miscues defensively. I mean, 42 point fourth quarter for both teams, and the only way a team is going to score that much on us is if we're fouling shooters and making some mistakes there. But love the fight, getting back into the game, and then a bunch of ticky-tack touch calls at the end, which were the opposite of how they let us play the whole game.
As far as tonight's NBA slate, there's no question what everyone will be watching, and that is whether or not Jimmy Butler will return to the Miami Heat. No one really knows for sure. He is not on the injury list. I saw that tweet yesterday, but I don't know that that means a damn thing because Butler certainly keeps asking for a trade. No one truly knows if he's going to be in the Heat lineup tonight, and they could use him because they play the Denver Nuggets. Meanwhile, our producer Frank is going to Madison Square Garden to see the Knicks tonight. Dante DiVincenzo is going to be out, And Karl Anthony Towns, by the way, may not play either. So, of course, Frank is going. So that means a big L is coming your way. Sorry, Frank. Minnesota in Michigan last night, one of the best college basketball games of the week. 10.5-point dog were the Golden Gophers last night. They end up beating Michigan on a wild finish and a 3-point shot, 84-81. I had no idea, and I bet you didn't either, that Minnesota was 0-15 against top 25 teams. So they snapped that streak, and it seems like their head coach, Ben Johnson, was very well aware of that.
I just said, a couple things. It took 4 years to finally get something to go our way a little bit. And, I think it was, it was obviously meant to be. My guys have this togetherness. And I've been telling people that we're getting better and nobody probably believes me. I've been telling people that we're this close and nobody probably believes me. My players included.
Two other huge underdogs win in college basketball last night. The first was Oregon, 8.5-point dogs. They beat Gonzaga, number 16, 97-89. And Rutgers ends up beating Nebraska, 85-82. They were 8.5-point underdogs. And also Northwestern picks up a win against Maryland. I know not as sexy as those other games, but that definitely is the case. And folks, we did not even have a chance to get into the college football national championship. That is coming up, of course, on Monday night between Ohio State and Notre Dame. We'll preview that for you coming up this weekend and, of course, Monday as well. But Matt Lutovsky is up next to preview the games in the NFL. Don't go away.
The defending champion Kansas City Chiefs aim for an unprecedented third straight Super Bowl. But the Texans are ready to end the dynasty. Then the Commanders, fresh off their first playoff win since 2006, take on the high-powered offense of the Detroit Lions. Start your game day with pro football today at 10 a.m. for pregame betting. Then stay in the action with in-game live game day, only on SportsGrid.
What if he gets Kellen Moore? CS guy, right? He was like supposed to be the coach in waiting when he was the offensive coordinator. Is that enough? Like, does Jerry pull the trigger for that? Or does he pull the trigger for Dion?
Mike McCarthy would have not let this play out this way unless he had a job. So I think McCarthy already has the New Orleans job.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Matt Lutovsky is with us from Sporting News, and let's break down these games this weekend. We'll start with the very big one. In fact, I would say this is the biggest one. I've said it before on the show this week. I'm usually pretty good at identifying this kind of stuff. Usually, not always. I predict, Matt, this will be the most watched regular season game in the history of the NFL on Sunday night between the Ravens and Buffalo Bills. Oh, I'm sorry, it's playoffs. Most watched playoff game in the history of the NFL outside of a Super Bowl. I think this game may be more watched than the AFC and NFC championship, just depending on the matchups. The Ravens are up to a 1.5-point favorite at Buffalo. Matt, you know this opened up as Buffalo. as a favorite. The total is 51.5. Do you think this movement identifies the right side here? This is the toughest game for me to call of the weekend. I just don't know, and I'm hoping for a good game.
Yeah, I think that it represents the right side of the movement in terms of what team's been playing better and probably what team has the better weapons. But we all know that that doesn't always translate, especially when home field is involved, especially when potential weather issues are involved. I think the Zay Flowers injury is a big deal in a game like this. The Ravens managed to get through last week without really missing Zay Flowers all that much. But in a game like this, I think that really matters. It limits that passing game of Baltimore, and it just puts more pressure on the running game, which we know is extremely talented, extremely good. We saw what they did last time these two teams played, where Derrick Henry just ran roughshod over Buffalo, which is something he's done at other points in his career. But I just think, the way Buffalo's playing, they have the confidence, they have the home field. I think Josh Allen is playing at an incredibly high level, even if the stats aren't quite as good as Lamar's. I think what he's had to do with carrying his team. And look, James Cook, everyone's talking about Derrick Henry in this game, but James Cook has been every bit as solid of a running back throughout the year, at least in terms of what he's being asked to do in Buffalo. And I just think that overall, they're just a little bit healthier, and they're going to be a tougher out playing in their home building.
Yeah, it should be a great one, and the numbers just are fascinating for the amount of total touchdowns and yards both these two have mirroring each other. Josh Allen, 40 total touchdowns on the season, 3,731 passing yards. Lamar Jackson, 4,172 in terms of passing yards. Again, he played the last game. Josh Allen really did not. That was the separator there. But honestly, I've said it before, I'll say it again. I hope in the end both get the MVP and they split it. And I know it's rare in the NFL, but I'm hoping that's the way the voters see it, but we'll see. Okay, so this, I know this one I hear a lot of back and forth on. And to me, Matt, that usually makes for a good game. Like, for example, last week, the world was taking the Chargers. So I said here on the show, well, the pick has got to be Houston if that's the case. This one, I'm hearing a lot of Houston, but I also hear a lot of backing for Kansas City. So that's what I like to hear, because then we can kind of get into it and debate. The total is 41.5. The total does seem low to me, but the Chiefs haven't played in so long that I'm not really sure what their idea is, but they certainly are a really annoying team, Matt. Like, the way that I view this game is, 3-0 after the first, 3-3 midway through the second, 10-3 maybe at halftime, 10-6, late touchdown from Kansas City, and we're all annoyed that they win and cover, something like that. Because aren't they like annoying? Like, this is what's been happening all season long, but they haven't been covering. That is true all season long.
Yeah, that's very true. And this is the thing. You can look at this game and think, okay, Chiefs have had a week to rest. They're going to come out. They're just going to unleash it all in the playoffs. But I'm thinking more in lines of the way you're thinking, where they're just going to come out and do what they did in the regular season, where they play a close game against a team that many expect them to beat and beat handedly, and they're going to win by 7 points in the end, something like that. And they'll get the W, but they're not going to cover. And that's kind of how I see them playing this game. It's pretty obvious the offense just hasn't been as explosive. And now maybe with Hollywood, being back for a couple weeks and being more ingrained in the offense, they can get a little more going. But I don't think they have anything saved up that we don't know is coming in the playoffs. They'll run their little trick plays that they love to run inside the 10-yard line. But for the most part, we know what this team is. We know what they do. They play defense, they grind it out, and they make big plays when they have to. And I think Houston is a solid team. They have a go-to number one receiver. They have a very solid running back. And they hadn't been that great this year, so a lot of people were down on them going into last week. And then they looked really good. They have an exceptional defense. And so I think they're going to make this a tight game that eventually Kansas City will win.
Yeah, it sounds like the blueprint for how they win. I think the only way KC covers, Matt, and I think it's possible, by the way, but the only way I think they cover is like a defensive or special teams touchdown. That would be the equalizer that we would look back and say, well, that's the reason why. By the way, off the bye, Andy Reid is 29-3. That is astounding. But again, you look at records, every year is different. And the Chiefs, whatever their record is off the bye, I really don't care. I mean, they haven't covered at all, and they won in a lot of lucky games this season. So I understand that, but I'm going to throw that away. I think it's year to year. Things change. Now, the Eagles take the Rams out this weekend, I think. I think the Eagles will win this game, but will they cover this? It's 6.5 points. The total is 44.5. I feel like Philadelphia is destined for the NFC Championship. They're also kind of winning a little ugly, Matt, too. Fair to say. Like, they don't look fantastic. Look great on defense, but their offense it basically hasn't clicked out, with the exception of that one game against the Rams earlier this year.
Yeah, and the Rams look exceptional on defense. They just look fast. They look young. They look hungry. You got weather in this game that could affect things, and especially when you have a team like LA. Obviously, they play in a warm weather environment, a stadium with a roof. They've been bouncing all over. We know the whole backstory there with the fires, and we just see this a lot. I feel in the NFL playoffs where teams have been traveling a lot, have to go cross country, and they just run out of steam against a team that's probably a little bit better and a little more talented. Now you throw in weather. I think the Eagles are going to win. They're going to win by about a touchdown. I don't think it'll necessarily be a blowout because, like you said, the offense hasn't been great. But we know what Saquon can do, and we know what he can do against this team. We've seen it. So I like the Eagles there to win, semi-comfortably.
All right, final game of the weekend, Matt. You've been on with me all year, so you know which way I'm going here. I believe Washington can beat the Lions this week. I think it's going to be a very close game, total of 8.5, and the total is 55.5. I don't know. There's sometimes, Matt, there's teams of destiny, and I'm not saying Washington's winning a Super Bowl, but I think they got a shot this week.
Yeah, they do. That's why I think they'll cover. I don't think they'll win, but I think they'll cover. I think it'll be a highly entertaining game, fun game. Both these teams like to go down to the wire, and I think Lions pull it out, but it'll be close.
All right, we'll see. Thanks again, Matt. Have a great weekend.
The defending champion Kansas City Chiefs aim for an unprecedented third straight Super Bowl, but the Texans are ready to end the dynasty. Then the Commanders, fresh off their first playoff win since 2006, take on the high-powered offense of the Detroit Lions. Start your game day with pro football today at 10 a.m. for pregame betting. Then stay in the action with in-game live game day, only on SportsGrid.
What if he gets Kellen Moore? CS guy, right? He was supposed to be the coach in waiting when he was the offensive coordinator. Is that enough? Does Jerry pull the trigger for that? Or does he pull the trigger for Dion?
Mike McCarthy would have not let this play out this way unless he had a job. So I think McCarthy already has the New Orleans job.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. We're going to take a closer look at this matchup between Washington and Detroit this weekend. It's one of the 4 divisional games in the National Football League, and also get an injury update from Dr. Chow. Time now for the SportsGrid Sound Off. All right, make no mistake about it, the Detroit Lions are coming off a bye. They played a fantastic regular season, but will it all add up to a playoff win? That still remains to be seen as they take on the Commanders. coming up this weekend. Dan Campbell, the head coach, you would firmly expect to have his team ready to play this weekend, knows what the feeling is of losing a big game, and certainly doesn't want to have that happen this time around.
No, I mean, listen, everything's about this game right now. And like I've said it before, I've been to the Super Bowl and I've lost it and it stinks. So it's about this week. We got to find a way to win this game this week.
Hard to keep the players focused on that, knowing that you're just 2 games away, or do you think you drill that into them, that it's just the next step?
Yeah, I think it's actually, I don't think that's hard at all. I think they understand what's at stake. And this is and inevitably, I mean, I showed the team really every game, just different situations that popped up, a snapshot of what happened. And you just look at, what could have cost the team, whether it's a drop here, whether it's a penalty, whether it's a situation, whatever it is, and they're littered all through, the week, and that's what the playoffs are, is, man, that one extra play, just doing your job in the heat of the moment, and if you do that, you give yourself the best odds. If not, that the other team's going. And so we've got a really good opponent here. They got a dynamic quarterback. They're playing good offense, good defense, really good coaching, and we got a work cut out for us. That's what we've got.
Should be a good game on Sunday. Dan Quinn, by the way, knows all about games that didn't go his way. We won't reset that from several years ago with the Atlanta Falcons, but needless to say, Quinn has done a great job with the Washington Commanders. Not a lot of people thought they would beat the Buccaneers last week. Not a lot of people think they will beat the Lions this week. But Quinn has had his team up against the wall a lot of times during the regular season and talked about bringing that to the postseason.
I know you've preached consistency through the season, but from the coaching side, when you're playing a team off extra rest, do you get into how does that change, I guess, the way that you guys prepare for this game, knowing that they might throw some different looks at you and different things that they haven't necessarily done in the regular season?
No different from our end. And just in terms of the what ifs, you don't go there. They've got a huge playbook. So for us to, draw some stuff up in the dirt and say this might happen, no way, no can do. And so there's plenty of stuff that they have that we've got to really be rock solid and ready. Like run game's excellent. The play back pass that goes off of that is excellent. So the matchups that we have to dig into. So more than anything, our consistency does come down to us. It's that communication to go, and communication is big. All the shifts and motions they have, the crowd noise, it's an absolutely fantastic, place that'll be lit. And so those are the things that we have to put our time and attention on, the things that we can control.
And right now, going into the game, as far as injuries are concerned, it would appear that the Lions are the more banged up team, especially on the defensive side of the ball. So let's check in with Dr. David Chow of SIC Score and see what the latest opinions he has are on the injury status going into this game.
The number 1 NFC seed Lions host the number 7 seed Washington Commanders. This is Dr. David Chow, Pro Football Doc at Sports Injury Central. The Lions, it's well known, have been the most injured team in the league remaining in the playoffs. They have a bye. The only good news is they're on the uptick in terms of health. Defensively, still 3 out of 4 main D linemen injured. Anzalone is back, but still linebackers injured. Thankfully, Terrion Arnold seems like he will play this week. No Carlton Davis. Also, David Montgomery full practice and will be back this week, probably as the 1B back to 1A Jamar Gibbs. Kevin Zeitler, we hope he can play through his hamstring. Washington's big issues on the defensive line. Jonathan Allen's been out. Deron Payne, with his thumb dislocation, will be limited in a cast and splint, but should play through.
Thanks, Dr. Chow. By the way, good news in the world of college basketball, as it was just announced by ESPN, Dick Vitale is returning to the broadcast booth for the first time in 2 years on television. He will call the upcoming game between Duke and Wake Forest. We'll take a quick time out here on NewsWire. When we come back next, Sam McQuillan joins us from Legal Sports Report. We'll go over the very latest in Missouri and BetMGM. You're watching NewsWire on SportsGrid. We'll be right back.
The defending champion Kansas City Chiefs aim for an unprecedented third straight Super Bowl, but the Texans are ready to end the dynasty. Then the Commanders, fresh off their first playoff win since 2006, take on the high-powered offense of the Detroit Lions. Start your game day with pro football today at 10 a.m. for pregame betting. Then stay in the action with in-game live game day, only on SportsGrid.
What if he gets Kellen Moore? CS guy, right? He was like supposed to be the coach in waiting when he was the offensive coordinator. Is that enough? Like, does Jerry pull the trigger for that? Or does he pull the trigger for Dion?
Mike McCarthy would have not let this play out this way unless he had a job. So I think McCarthy already has the New Orleans job.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire. We got Sam McQuillan in from Legal Sports Report. We're going to dive into a number of topics, including the success of the public this football season in sports betting, how it may affect one company. Let's bring in Sam. Sam, happy Friday. Thanks for coming on the show here. Let's get started. Missouri was the one state that made the big headlines in 2024. They legalized sports betting, but legalization doesn't mean that sports betting initially launches. You got to wait a little bit, and it seems like, according to the article from Pat over at Legal Sports Report, that you guys posted, that it seems like the summer now is the launch date for Missouri. I know they were hoping for Super Bowl, then they were hoping for maybe the NCAA tournament time, but it does seem that they're just trying to get ahead of next football season, at least from what I read.
Yeah, you got it right, Craig. Absolutely. Missouri legalized sports betting only in November, so it's just a couple months ago. So I know anytime sports betting gets legalized, everyone's, can I do it? Everyone downloads the apps. You see this huge surge. Companies tracking people trying to log in, especially in a state like Missouri, which borders a couple of other states with sports betting. But Super Bowl turnaround would have been honestly one of the quickest turnarounds we've ever seen with this kind of thing before. They're now targeting the middle of the summer. The ballot proposition that legalized sports betting in November via a majority vote by the people. It had it written in the ballot that it had to start by December at the very latest. So when you look at other states like Maryland or even New York, New Jersey, some of those states have taken up to 2 years from legalizing sports betting to then launching it. So in Missouri's case, while you won't be able to get it by the Super Bowl, you will have the option to go to other states around there. They should get it during the summer, which will be then the big timeline, the big target there will be, can we get everything ahead of next football season? So sort of the worst case scenario would have been launching mid playoffs last year. We've seen some states do that, but the fact that Missourians will have sports betting before next football season, that's the real key target here that sports books especially will be happy about. So essentially what has to happen before, it goes live is the Missouri Gaming Commission needs to figure out the licensing process. They need to do a ton of paperwork. They need to issue regulations and rules so the sports books know what they can and can't do. In some states you have certain bets that are legal, other states you don't. You have different licensing requirements. You want to make sure there's no bad actors coming in, like a state we'll talk about a little bit later with some people who maybe were shady about their business. So, if you're in Missouri, you don't get it by the Super Bowl, but it's still going to be one of the quickest turnarounds we've seen. So got to be thankful for that.
Yeah, and who knows what other states even legalize sports betting this year. As of right now, really nothing on the table for that, which would be a first in sports betting was legalized here in the United States. Okay, so let's get to the latest and a report here from BetMGM, Sam. It should be no surprise to people who pay attention to sports betting, watch our network throughout, that this year, unlike other years in the National Football League, the favorites won and covered quite a bit, especially the big favorites in the NFL, 6.5, 7, 8, 10. I mean, that's sort of unprecedented in this world of sports betting. Usually it's the dogs that covering, and then they build another hotel in Las Vegas, as I like to say. But this year, not the case. The books took a little bit of a hit. What's this report from BetMGM? Does it change anything for any of these sports books taking the hit this year?
Yeah, it's really interesting. Like you say, we usually don't have this kind of thing happen, but I think one thing that I think everyone is learning from this mass legal expansion of sports betting with everything going digital online is we really have no idea what to expect now. We have an unprecedented run of favorites winning in the NFL. In the past, you might think that, okay, yeah, the public is going to bet heavy favorites. So that means that the sports books are really hurting. We even saw this on the Super Bowl last year, where the public won pretty much every big bet on the spread, the total. But then the books actually ended up cleaning up because of player props and same game parlays. Right. But not all sports books are created equal. BetMGM, they came out and said, despite this crazy run that's impacting other companies like FanDuel, a company we talk about as like pretty much the leader in the space. It's impacting them pretty hard. BetMGM came out and said, we're not really expecting to be hit that much from these results. And it's a pretty interesting reason why. It's not why you would think, because they're pushing more same game parlays, because they're pushing player props better. While they are pushing all of that stuff, they spent most of this last year and a half really doing a lot of investing and building new products, trying to make those parlay products that compete with those big dogs that have already kind of done their investments and are really now trying to push those on people. So what that meant that MGM couldn't do was really go out and be aggressive. You don't see as many commercials, you don't see as many promotions. So they're kind of saying, because we were investing and didn't push the product out so much, we weren't pushing out a product that was so customer friendly. We had, we lost less money on that end. So it's kind of an interesting financial way that they ended up benefiting from what was pretty much not a plan for them. They didn't want to make this another year of investing. They wanted to go out and compete with the other sports books. They've been third place for a long time, but in this crazy world of gambling and this crazy world of, finance, this is how this stuff works sometimes, where, maybe a mistake ends up kind of benefiting you in the back end. So we'll see. The football season's not over yet. I'm sure the books will be really hoping to figure it out, come as we talk about the playoffs coming up and or the additional rounds and then the Super Bowl eventually. But interesting to see different companies kind of maneuvering or navigating the space in a different way. And, BetMGM, not a company we talk about in terms of being at the top. So a good article for them right here.
Okay. And then finally, an article that I think needs some explanation here. I saw this story when it happened, Sam, and then I read it, wasn't completely understanding it. I now read your guys' article. It's making me a little bit more enlightened on the situation, but I'll start, you'll finish. Easiest way to do this. And by the way, you can read about this story and more at LegalSportsReport.com. There's a company called Intralot. They run the lottery system in Washington, D.C. They were being sued. They were apparently allegedly defrauding another company here, $6.5 million to actually the Washington, D.C. itself. Please explain this to all of my viewers here, because it took me a couple of times to get it.
Yeah, it's a really convoluted story. It's complicated to believe just because you kind of can't believe this happened. So in Washington, D.C., when they legalized sports betting, they had a bidding process for the company that would then run the sports betting app for the district. So rather than open it up to a competitive bidding process where a number of apps could enter, this company Intralot, which is a Greek company, it runs a couple of sports betting apps across the country. They had this app called Gambet DC, which, if you know anything about Gambet DC, is most people don't like it. Most people hated it. The lines were terrible. It crashed during Super Bowls. It actually lost the district tons of money because nobody was using it, even though it was the only option in town. More people going offshore. Essentially, how they got the district to give them that exclusivity, the monopoly over Washington, D.C., was by telling them that they were working with this company that was contracting with locals in D.C. and sort of keeping it all in the city. So they're thereby providing an economic benefit to the city. That company was Veterans Service Corporation. They promised they would perform half the work of the contract. But then it came out under this investigation that actually that was not true. They were not performing half of the work, and they were essentially defrauding the city in order to get this exclusive contract. So they got hit with a $6.5 million fine, which I don't know. As far as fines go, that seems pretty light for defrauding an entire city and preventing other operators from entering. Ever since then, now you have more apps in town. FanDuel replaced it this past year, and then they added more apps in general. And ever since Intralot or Gambit DC was no longer the only game in town, the revenue that the district has collected is up about 400% year over year. So that just shows you how they are running things top to bottom. But really leaves some kind of questions into what DC was thinking, just awarding this contract without really doing any back end legwork. And now they get an extra 6.5 million out of it. But yeah, just a crazy story.
It really is. You can read about this story and everything else that Sam and I discuss here on the show, as well as all the great contributors that appear on our show each and every day here on NewsWire from LegalSportsReport.com. Sam, have a great rest of your weekend. Enjoy a lot of the football games this weekend. I know you will, and we'll check back with you again next week. Thanks again.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Craig. You too.
All right, Sam McQuillan from Legal Sports Report here with us. And coming up next here on the show, it's time to dive into more of the player props and get the final opinions of the weekend from another one of our SportsGrid analysts. You can also catch him on In Game Live. Adam Kaufman is going to join us next and break down the games. We'll see if Sunday Night Football turns out to be the game that we think it will, and also who will advance in the NFC as well. You're watching NewsWire on SportsGrid. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
The defending champion Kansas City Chiefs aim for an unprecedented third straight Super Bowl, but the Texans are ready to end the dynasty. Then the Commanders, fresh off their first playoff win since 2006, take on the high-powered offense of the Detroit Lions. Start your game day with pro football today at 10 a.m. for pregame betting. Then stay in the action with In-Game Live Game Day, only on SportsGrid.
What if he gets Kellen Moore? CS guy, right? He was like supposed to be the coach in waiting when he was the offensive coordinator. Is that enough? Like, does Jerry pull the trigger for that? Or does he pull the trigger for Dion?
Mike McCarthy would have not let this play out this way unless he had a job. So I think McCarthy already has the New Orleans job.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Adam Kaufman is here with us to preview the games this weekend. Adam, are you on the air this weekend too with us here at SportsGrid? Are you doing any in-game live shows this weekend? I didn't check the upcoming schedule. I know they said.
Yeah, absolutely.
They send
yeah, we've got.
I don't do a good job.
Yeah.
What
I'll
night?
be on. Brady Cannon and I, we've got you tomorrow night from 8 to midnight Eastern, and then I'll be on for the late game with Scott Wetzel and Joe Madden. I think it's 6:30 to 10 p on Sunday. So, yeah, be a busy weekend. It'll be a lot of fun.
That'll be awesome. I never get invited to those parties. Never happens.
Hey, you can come on with us anytime you want.
Never invited. Never invited. It's the same old thing here at
All I
Sports
hear here is I want to work the weekend. That's fine. We'll reach out. We'll get you on.
I already am working the weekend. There's only 7 days a week. I can't work them all. Well, maybe I can. I don't know. All right, so let's start off with that Sunday night game, Ravens and Bills. The line flipped. So anybody who liked Baltimore is not getting the best line right now, that's for sure. They're 1.5, total 51.5. You could have gotten a point or a point and a half when it opened. It's the biggest game in a long time for a divisional series. I know there's going to be some severe overreaction regardless of who wins this game or not. So what positions are you on thus far?
Oh, yeah. I mean, don't you know the NFL MVP is going to be determined by this game, even though I'm fairly certain the voting has already happened and it's been determined. But that's going to be the fan reaction. It's Lamar Jackson against Josh Allen, obviously the two MVP favorites, and which one is going to win? And both these guys sort of have that prove it to me kind of game in front of them in the eyes of the analysts and the pundits because, you know, neither one obviously has had great playoff success in their careers. And, you know, in one form or another, they both always seem to be going out to Kansas City. So the Chiefs, you know, I know we'll talk about that one. I don't think anybody anticipates Kansas City is going to have trouble with Houston. So the winner of this game is the one that moves on for the right to try and knock off the two-time defending champs. And so there's a lot of pressure, obviously, that goes into this one. It is in Buffalo, where the Bills have been, you know, a juggernaut so far this year, 9-0, including the postseason, and they have been putting up 30-plus points regularly. They've only missed it once. Team total this week, by the way, is 25.5. So if you do believe in more offense, I would look to go over on the Bills, maybe more so than the entire full game over, which is a pretty robust total. I just think this one it's a really, like you said, it's the game of the weekend. It's the most compelling. You mentioned if you're on the Ravens side, the number moved against you. I'm on the Bills side, so I'm happy about that. I believe that Buffalo wins this game, and I wouldn't mess around with the +1, +1.5. I mean, at that point, you may as well just take the plus money. +110 is, I think, as good as you can get it on the money line there for Buffalo. Josh Allen, to me, as solid as the Ravens are with Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry and the fact that, you know, they should be able to run with pretty good success as they have been all year, so long as they don't just, you know, in a mystifying fashion abandon their game plan like they've done in the postseason a few times in years past. It's not going to be easy for Lamar and company playing in cold temperatures. I heard Tommy Lorenzo on Sports Rage last night saying that this is the coldest game at kickoff that Lamar Jackson will have played in his entire career with the mid-20s temperature. Allen's used to these temps. He has, I think, especially with his Nose Flowers on the other side, in all likelihood, he has just more depth throughout that lineup in terms of pass catchers. I think it's the Bills' time. There are plenty of people that believe the opposite. That's fine. I wouldn't fault you for it. You could make a compelling case for either team, but I think it's Buffalo's turn.
That's fair. Look, I think everything you said is fair. I am hoping for a good game. If you like sports, I cannot imagine where you would be Sunday night except watching this game. Yeah. So we'll see. All right, Josh Allen's, we're going to run through these quick because we got a lot of games to do. 235.5 is his passing yard prop, 45.5 on the rushing yards, and anytime touchdowns at +105. Which is your favorite here, if any?
Oh, boy. I guess if I had... I don't love any of them. If
You
I
don't
had
have
to pick
to.
one, I'd probably go to the passing over if I had to pick one.
You don't
just
have to.
because if you're of the belief that the Bills are going to be playing from behind at any point in this game, that just means Josh Allen is throwing the ball. And so it's not a high total, 235.5. That said, I do want to remind people when these teams matched up what feels like a lifetime ago, all the way back in week 4 when the Ravens throttled Baltimore, similar kind of game script, and Josh Allen did not produce. He only threw for 180 passing yards. He only ran for 21. So, yeah, I wouldn't go near it. I don't really like those numbers.
All right, and anything on Lamar Jackson? Passing yards, rushing yards, anytime touchdown? Any interest in these two? We have graphics. We have to use them.
I do like the over on Lamar's rushing yards because, again, I just think if they are going to do what they should be doing, it's establish the run and do what has made you successful all year. And there's only so much of that that's going to be put upon Derrick Henry. Now, he was awesome, 199 rushing yards when these teams matched up earlier, but Lamar got his too. He ran for 54. I think that he is going to be scrambling a fair amount.
All right, let's get to Texans Chiefs. In the words of Adam Kaufman last week here on the show, I'm not throwing you under the bus, but I am throwing you under the bus. If taking the Chargers is the sucker bet, then I'm the sucker. Well, there you go, Adam. Are you?
Right.
I mean, come on, man. The world took the Chargers last week, so now you're fading
Not
the
even
Texans
just
again.
that.
But
I could not be more angry about the Chargers. Not even that they lost, in the way they lost.
It was
Up
so
6-0, and then Herbert, who had thrown 2 interceptions the entire freaking year, Craig, throws 4 in that game. I had parlays, and look, people should not build parlays the way that I build parlays. I could do segments on this. I know we don't have time, but I had parlays, multiple, that were sunk because I had the Chargers plus 14.5. So never mind did LA not even win the game, they couldn't cover losing by 2 touchdowns on the way to that 20-point defeat. So yeah, they looked fraudulent, but you know what? The Texans just aren't good. That was more LA losing than it was Houston winning. What I will say about this game, though, is that if you want to support Houston covering the number, there's an argument to be made for it, which is this. Kansas City won 15 games in the regular season. Looking at my numbers here, only won 5 of those by at least 8 points. Of course, we're looking at 8.5, 9 here in this game. And in their playoff wins, on the way to winning 2 Super Bowls the last 2 years, those games were decided by 19, 3, 7, 3 in overtime, 7, 3, and 3. That's one game that they really won decisively. So I think Kansas City wins, but I do think it'll be close.
Commanders win? Outright?
No. I got Detroit covering.
The defending champion Kansas City Chiefs aim for an unprecedented 3rd straight Super Bowl. But the Texans are ready to end the dynasty. Then the Commanders, fresh off their first playoff win since 2006, take on the high-powered offense of the Detroit Lions. Start your game day with pro football today at 10 a.m. for pregame betting. Then stay in the action with in-game live game day, only on SportsGrid.
What if he gets Kellen Moore? CS guy, right? He was like supposed to be the coach in waiting when he was the offensive coordinator. Is that enough? Like, does Jerry pull the trigger for that? Or does he pull the trigger for Dion?
Mike McCarthy would have not let this play out this way unless he had a job. So I think McCarthy already has the New Orleans job.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. We got about 5 minutes to go here. We'll turn it over to Smiley. He's got the latest on the golf tournament going on right now, the American Express out in California. We're going to touch on a funny story from an airport and also a new restaurant opening up in Mexico, very strange and bizarre. We'll do that, and also the latest on the wildfires in California. Time now for some last licks. Now, naturally, that has been the biggest news story of the early part of 2025, has been the devastating wildfires in Southern California, Pacific Palisades, and many other places. Good to see so many different organizations and athletes stepping up to try and help in this situation. And the latest is Steve Ballmer, the owner of the Los Angeles Clippers. In fact, he and his wife, Connie, announced that they are contributing a very big number, $15 million toward wildlife relief efforts, highlighting Altadena in particular. Certainly there's been so many lives that have been impacted by this. Lives have been lost, but more so, homes have just been burnt to the ground, and things that you own and personal possessions. I just cannot imagine losing the amount of things that people did that meant so much to them. Needless to say, great move here by the Clippers owner, Steve Ballmer. $15 million donation to get that fixed. I think we've all been in this situation before. Maybe when you were younger, maybe you're older, you're traveling in the airport, and you see an athlete, maybe one of your favorites, and then you said to yourself, and I know there's someone watching right now that's thinking the same thing, oh, I wish I would have had something for that person to sign, right? Like we're all, oh, I wish I would have known. Selfies are cool, and that's like the new signature sort of. But, I think there's something else to be said to, get an autograph of your favorite person. Believe me, as a kid, was a huge thing for me. So this person saw Paul Skeens in the Chicago airport. I guess he was just traveling, pitcher for the Pittsburgh Pirates. And he had absolutely nothing for, of course, Skeens to sign, because most people don't carry around baseballs. Some people do, but most people don't carry around baseballs when they're traveling. So this person was actually pretty creative and ended up having him sign a book. I guess this person was reading a book on the plane. I believe it was Crime and Punishment. Did I get that right, Frank? I believe that was the book that we all had to read in high school. And it was like really annoying. I had to read that. I definitely read that in high school. And he had Paul Skeens sign this book, Crime and Punishment. That's all he had. So he took out a ballpoint pen and Skeens signed it. That's pretty cool. So at least that's a pretty cool memory and actually a pretty funny story. But somebody out there that's watching on SportsGrid now, I was like, oh my gosh, you're so right. I saw this person at this time in the airport, and all I was thinking was, oh, I wish I had a pen to get them to sign something. How about a book? There you go. All right, finally, Pittsburgh Steelers are popular. We know that. The National Football League has opened up a Steelers KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken themed restaurant in Mexico. That is correct. How in the world did this end up happening? I have no idea. Why the Steelers? Why a KFC? Why in Mexico? Read the story again. Doesn't say. Basically, they're popular, and we thought this was a good idea. We won't know the outcome to this for a long time. Trying to think, by the way, no offense to KFC at all. Trying to think the last time I had KFC. It has been a really long time. I'm going to say 10 years probably for me, maybe even more. Nothing against them. It's just, I haven't had that in a long time. And definitely if I'm in Mexico, I don't know that this is my hot spot. Just because it's a Steelers KFC, Frank? Come on. Makes no sense whatsoever. Roger Goodell, commissioner of the NFL, recently commented to a member of the media as we wrap this up that there's a possibility of an 18-game NFL season coming. National Football League, 18-game season. This is just coming down here. We'll talk more about it when we come back after the weekend, which would mean essentially 2 bye weeks for every team in the National Football League, which is actually good. So if they did extend this by 1 week and eliminated, I don't know, how much preseason is there anyway? Eliminate another game, I guess. Then what they would do is, I guess, have 2 bye weeks. But when would they play the Super Bowl? That would be my question here. When would that thing be? I mean, we're already playing this thing deep into February. I don't know how they'll do that. Anyway, story for Monday. Coast to Coast coming up 3 o'clock Eastern. Make sure you stick around. Scotty's all ready to go. Game time decisions at 6. In-game live game day sports rage tonight. I'm back with you tomorrow morning with George Kurtz. We'll play a little daily fantasy, help you set some lineups. That's 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, so I will see you then. If not, I'll see you back here on NewsWire on Monday. Thanks again to our director, Luke, and my producer, Frank. Thanks to our guest, Adam Kaufman, for coming on the show. Also, thanks to Sam McQuillan and Matt Lutovsky from Sporting News. As a reminder, you can catch all of our fantastic programming on the biggest weekend of the National Football League and college football, all put together in one. Stick around all weekend long, in-game live programming, all kinds of betting action going on. It'll be the biggest week in football and probably the biggest week until we get to next year. So I would encourage you to stick around this weekend, and I hope you enjoy all of it. I'll see you back here on Monday.